Hello everyone and welcome to my bold and beautiful update channel. I hope today fantastic for everyone. Please hit the subscribes button and give this video a thumbs up. Steffy's invitation, Liam's horrible new scan findings. Finally, here is the bold and the beautiful recap for Monday, May 19, 2025. Steffy Forrester Finnegan makes amends in today's episode. A new brain scan is performed on Liam Spencer. Additionally, Carter Walton is consoled by Daphne Rose. Hope Logan is appreciative. Hope Logan looks at a picture of the Lope family at Brooke Logan's residence. Hope's distressed expression is cut short when someone knocks on the door. Hope shouts for you to enter. She came to see how she was doing. It's Steffy. Hope is appreciative of Steffy. She wouldn't even be aware that Liam was dying if it weren't for her. Steffy says it was the proper thing to do, and Hope is thankful. Hope and Steffy discuss the daughter's loss of Liam. They must get together, Steffy urges. Like her, Steffy is aware that she is having difficulties. Both of them should take note of Liam's brain tumor. They both agree that feuding was pointless. Liam desires their friendship. The first thing Steffy does is say, "Return to Forrester Creations." Hope says it's a big first step and asks if she means it. Hope feels grateful and overwhelmed. Hope expresses regret for hurting Steffy and taking control. They give each other hugs. Hope is considering Beth Spencer, Jordan Lynn Ariza, but she wants to spend more time with Liam. Steffy concurs wholeheartedly. They decide to continue asking for a miracle. Liam cannot be lost. This will be a present for Liam, bringing them together as colleagues and friends. They will love one another in order to commemorate Liam. They give one another hug. The latest scan of Liam Spencer. Liam is at the hospital for additional testing. John Finnegan and Liam discuss Hope. When Liam informs the doctor that Steffy went straight to Hope with his diagnosis, he sounds disturbed. Is he angry with Steffy? Asks Finn. Liam's attitude abruptly shifts, and he says he's not, saying it was genuinely endearing. Liam is astounded by how much Hope cares. Liam shares Hope and Carter's story with Finn. Hope isn't the only thing that worries Liam. Liam begins rattle off a list of names because he is concerned about everyone. While Finn acknowledges this, he believes Liam should focus all of his energy on looking for himself. Is there a possibility I'll make it, because Liam seems suspicious? That is not at all what Finn says. It feels different, according to Liam. Finn believes it's crucial that Liam keeps doing the scans, but he won't say whether or not things have changed. Liam wants to live, especially for Beth and Kelly Spencer. Gazing into a mirror, Liam assesses his age since receiving the diagnosis. Liam tells Finn about a few new symptoms. In order to obtain another brain scan, they go to neurology. After they return, you have to wait. An anxious mess, Liam begins to babble. At last, Liam's findings are revealed. I apologize, Liam, replies Finn. Nothing has changed. After that, Finn's words simply reverberate and sound hollow. I need to say goodbye to my kids, Liam says abruptly. This is very heartbreaking. Daphne Rose's allure. Carter and Daphne discuss Hope at the loft. Daphne wishes to assist him. Carter is perplexed. According to the COO, Daphne was correct all along. Liam is the man Hope desires. Carter shares what he heard with Daphne. Hope didn't want to be apart from Liam any longer. Daphne is really apologetic. While they converse, Daphne gets Carter a drink. The COO describes Hope and Liam's conversation as intense. He mentions that Hope desired Liam but Liam was pressuring her to him. The COO finds it hard to believe how gullible he was. How could he have underestimated the love that exists between Liam and Hope? Daphne urges him to put Hope out of his mind. His top priority is to have a wife, children, and a family. With Hope, Carter believed he could have that. Family, according to the COO, is simply not in his future. Daphne has no desire to leave. She detests Carter's sadness. According to the COO, this is not his first heartbreak and it won't be his last. Carter and Hope aren't meant to be, according to Daphne. The purpose of love is to be simple. The COO should simply let Hope drift away. Daphne narrows her eyes and gives Carter a sultry look, but she doesn't attempt to kiss him. Carter appears to be melting in Daphne's spell as he looks back. Grace offers Liam a dangerous cure and treatment. According to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, a preview video for the week of May 19 to 23, 2025, has been made public. It depicts Grace Buckingham offering Liam Spencer a dangerous course of treatment. Daphne Rose says she will return to Paris. Rich Forrester also finds out that Hope Logan has been rehired. Let's discuss what will happen in the upcoming episode of the CBS soap opera as you continue reading. Brooke Logan's shocking revelation. Let's start with Brooke Logan hearing the fantastic news about Hope. To Ridge's surprise, Hope is present in the CEO's office at Forrester Creations. Hope had been barred from the building when Ridge last checked. But Brooke gives Ridge a shocking revelation. Hope has been rehired, the blonde tells her Destiny. Steffy Forrester Finnegan never alerted him, based on Ridge's response. Therefore, that might cause some issues, particularly given that Steffy is concealing Liam's diagnosis. The move of Daphne Rose. Carter Walton rejects her once more when she is with Daphne. Turning to face Steffy, Daphne informs her that she will simply return to Paris. Every time she doesn't get what she wants, doesn't she say this? Steffy will plead with Daphne to stay nonetheless. But we wonder if Steffy will find herself in the middle of Daphne and Hope's feud over Carter. What happens if Steffy abruptly decides to support Hope? Hope Logan's disclosure. According to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, the preview footage also has Carter addressing Hope. The COO declares that he heard Hope's conversation with Liam. But at that point, Hope prepares to explain a few things to Carter. Specifically, Liam's death. Could Hope and Carter get back together after Carter understands the meaning of the words? Grace Buckingham's dangerous treatment choice. Liam asks Grace whether she's managed to save him over at the hospital. Grace appears to offer the sufferer a course of therapy and a chance for recovery. She does, however, emphasize that Liam's quality of life might be significantly impacted. What precisely is this alternative, and how likely is it that Liam will succeed? In an interview, Scott Clifton stated that he didn't want Liam's tale to be like Eric's, but is that how things are going? Keep an eye out because it appears that Eric was informed something quite similar before to his journey into the great beyond. What is the plot that you are most excited to see? Do you still believe that Liam will be saved? Daphne's solace, Steffy's corrections, and Finn's unfavorable news. Finally, here is The Bold and the Beautiful recap for Monday, May 19, 2025. Steffy Forrester Finnegan offers a helping hand in today's episode. Liam Spencer receives an update on the brain tumor in the interim. Additionally, Daphne Rose attempts to comfort Carter Walton, who is devastated. I hope Logan gets another chance. Hope Logan looks at a picture of the family. The knocking interrupts her reverie. The person that enters the door is Steffy. Hope expresses her gratitude, saying that without her, she would not have been aware of Liam's condition. The women discuss Liam's passing. According to Steffy, they must unite. The diagnosis was a major wake-up call for Liam. Hope claims that the argument with Steffy was a complete waste of time. Liam wants forgiveness and peace for them. In an attempt to make amends, Steffy invites Hope to return to Forrester Creations. Hope is really touched by this. Steffy informs the blonde that they are family and she apologizes for the takeover. Hope is concerned about Beth Spencer's ability to spend time with Ilum. Steffy concurs, and they offer up a prayer for a miracle. An update on Liam Spencer's health. Liam is at John Finn Finnegan's office at the hospital. Liam discusses how Hope learned of his diagnosis. Is he upset? Asks Finn. He appears to be at first, but soon he feels relief. The extent of Hope's concern for Liam astounds him. Knowing that someone cares is one thing, but truly feeling it is quite another, according to Liam. Liam had a strong connection to Hope. Liam is anxious following yet another brain scan. He begins to ask a lot of questions and ramble. The results are in at last. Finn informs the patient that nothing has changed, which is regrettable. Suddenly Liam hears Finn, but the words continue to reverberate and fade. After a short while, Liam breaks the news to his children, Kelly and Beth, in a heartbreaking voice. Comfort in Daphne Rose's life. Carter and Daphne are still talking about Hope in the loft. It was always the nose's fault. Daphne urges the COO to put Hope out of his mind. He believed he could have a family with Hope, which was all he had ever desired. Carter wanted a wife, children, and everything. With Hope, Carter genuinely thought he had that. According to Daphne, love shouldn't be difficult. Carter looks back at Daphne as she looks into his eyes. Steffy asks Hope to return to Forrester after forgiving her. In a moment that no one in Los Angeles could have foreseen, not after years of rivalry, personal betrayals, and bitter family divides, Steffy Forrester, heir to one of the most iconic fashion dynasties in the world, did something uncharacteristic, something vulnerable, something bold. She forgave Hope Logan and asked her to return to Forrester Creations, not as an enemy held at arm's length, but as a respected partner, a creative visionary, and perhaps even as something dangerously close to family. And while the invitation itself was quietly extended in a private office with no press, no Ridge, and no Taylor or Brooke fanning the flames, the emotional weight behind it echoed through every corner of the building, vibrating through years of tension built on heartbreak, shared men, and boardroom battles. Steffy, tired of the endless cycle of conflict, had looked out over the LA skyline and realized that holding on to anger, especially after everything they'd endured, Hope's imploding marriage to Liam, Thomas's controversial pursuit of Hope, the toll it had taken on the kids, the line, and the family name, was doing more harm than good, not just to the business but to her soul, and if she was going to lead Forrester into the next decade with integrity and vision, it would take maturity, grace, and a kind of bravery that had nothing to do with catwalks or profit margins. The truth was, Steffy saw something in Hope she hadn't wanted to acknowledge before: resilience, creativity, a sense of values that, while sometimes naive, were grounded in purpose, and even if they'd spent more time as adversaries than allies, the fashion house had been stronger when they worked in creative opposition, sharpening one another through competition, than when they were completely at odds. So she picked up the phone and called Hope herself, her voice steady but unguarded as she said, "We need to talk, not as Forresters and Logans, not as rivals, but as women who care about this company." And on the other end, Hope froze, not expecting the tone, not used to hearing humility in Steffy's voice, and while part of her recoiled from the memory of how things had ended, the accusations, the dismissals, the judgment over her relationship with Thomas, another part of her, the part that missed the fabric swatches, the late-night edits, the way she had poured her heart into Hope for the future, softened, and she agreed to meet. When they sat down face to face, across a table in a quiet Forrester conference room, Steffy didn't offer platitudes, didn't sugarcoat the past, but instead looked her dead in the eye and said, "I didn't agree with your choices. I still have questions. But I've made mistakes, too, and I know that holding on to anger isn't helping anyone, especially the company," and that honesty cracked something open in Hope, who had spent so long defending herself, bracing for attacks, that she hadn't allowed herself to grieve the loss of Forrester, a place that had been not just a job but a part of her identity. And for a moment they just sat there, two women scarred by history but tentatively reaching across it, and when Steffy finally added, "We're launching a new division, and I want you to be part of it, on your terms," Hope blinked, stunned, not just by the offer, but by the emotional risk Steffy was taking in making it. Returning to Forrester wasn't a simple matter. Thomas still worked there, Ridge and Brooke were always one spat away from igniting a new war, and the media would surely feast on the idea of a Logan comeback. But despite all that, Hope felt a flicker of something she hadn't in a long time: purpose, pride, maybe even redemption. She asked Steffy one question before accepting: "Is this real forgiveness, or just a business decision?" And to her credit, Steffy didn't flinch, didn't pivot, she simply nodded and said, "It's both, but I won't lie and say we'll never clash again. We're too different for that." But I believe in you, Hope, and I think deep down, you believe in me, too, and that was all Hope needed to hear. The announcement came quietly at first, just an internal memo, a few raised eyebrows from the design team, some cautious smiles from Parison's end, and one long, unreadable look from Thomas, who kept his distance at first but whose eyes lingered on her in every meeting, silently questioning if she was really back for good, or if she still carried the weight of their brief. Complicated past, but what surprised everyone wasn't just that Hope had returned, it was how she returned, bolder, firmer, no longer the cautious people-pleaser but a woman who had been through hell, public heartbreak, career sabotage, and emotional upheaval, and come out stronger, more focused, more sure of her own voice, and as she walked the halls of Forrester again, clipboard in hand, head held high. Even Ridge remarked to Carter in passing, "She's got that spark again." Maybe Steffi was right, and those words, overheard by Brooke, led to a rare moment of maternal peace, where she looked at Steffi in the main office and simply said, "Thank you for seeing what she's capable of," to which Steffi replied, "It's not about what she's capable of. It's about what we're capable of, if we stop letting our mother's battles dictate our future," a statement that left Brooke speechless, because for once, it wasn't about Ridge, or men, or power, it was about legacy and moving forward, with Hope now co-heading the Sustainability Initiative and leading a new capsule collection aimed at social consciousness. She and Steffi found themselves working side by side more than either expected, and while old habits occasionally reared their heads, Hope's idealism clashing with Steffi's pragmatism, or the occasional eye roll when one mentioned Liam or Thomas, they were, for the first time, learning to respect those differences as strengths, not flaws, and even began to find an unexpected rhythm, one that had designers whispering that the tension in the air felt different now, productive, creative, electric, and behind closed doors, the bond slowly deepened, not into friendship, not yet, but into something real and unshakable, built on the hard truth that they had both survived the same war, worn different armor, and still stood tall, not because of the men in their lives, but in spite of them. And as they launched the first co-designed line in Forrester history, Legacy Rewritten, a symbolic nod to rewriting not just fashion but family history, the applause from the industry was thunderous, but more importantly, so was the silent agreement between the two women at the center of it all, that forgiveness wasn't weakness, that strength could come from unexpected alliances, and that maybe, just maybe, the future of Forrester was female after all. Will Heffy and Stopes' reunion last? In a moment that defied years of bitterness, heartbreak, and entrenched family loyalties, Steffi Forrester and Hope Logan, two women whose lives had been tangled together by love triangles, corporate battles, and the unrelenting pressure of carrying the weight of Forrester creations on their shoulders, stood shoulder to shoulder once again. A fragile but stunning image of reconciliation that had tongues wagging from the design studio to Spencer Publications to the Logan estate, and yet, as the newly coined portmanteau Heffy or Stope trended among fans and fashion bloggers alike, half joke, half prophecy, everyone from Ridge to Brooke to Thomas quietly wondered, could this uneasy peace, this long-overdue alliance, this so-called reunion between the Forrester powerhouse and the Logan idealist, really last, or was it merely the calm before the next storm, another beautiful illusion destined to shatter under the weight of secrets, insecurities, and men who never seemed to stay out of the way for long? Because while the joint relaunch of Hope for the Future and Intimates had sparked a creative explosion at Forrester Creations, drawing rave reviews, social media buzz, and even international press interest thanks to their seamless blending of sustainability, sensuality, and female empowerment, the truth simmered just beneath the polished fabrics and award-worthy runways. Nothing about Steffi and Hope's history suggested lasting peace, and though both women now smiled in public and complimented one another during interviews with genuine admiration, the private spaces told a more complicated story, filled with moments of tension, moments of restraint, and moments where their eyes would meet across a conference table and flicker with memories they weren't quite ready to relive, memories of Liam's divided heart, of Thomas's manipulation, of baby Beth's custody saga, and of the painful awareness that no matter how far they tried to move beyond the past, they had once defined each other's worst heartbreaks, and yet, something was different this time, not only in the maturity they brought to the table, but in the mutual exhaustion they both carried from fighting battles that had never truly been theirs to begin with, battles passed down like generational trauma from Ridge and Brooke, from Taylor's silences and Stephanie's shadow, and in the shared weariness, they had found, unexpectedly, a kind of solidarity, and maybe even a willingness to stop repeating the same Familial cycles. So when Steffi extended a hand not just metaphorically but literally, asking Hope to co-host the International Women's Day Gala under the Forrester name, it was more than a PR move. It was a declaration that she no longer saw Hope as an interloper, a threat, or a Logan to be tolerated, but as someone who could, perhaps, be trusted, and Hope, though cautious, accepted with grace, telling Steffi, "I'm not here to compete with you anymore, I'm here to build something better," and those words echoed through Steffi's mind later that night as she stood alone in her office, looking over designs Hope had sketched with such elegance and purpose, a far cry from the timid girl who once clung to Liam like a lifeline. But of course, even as the women forged ahead with joint campaigns, shared creative sessions, and an expanding alliance that left even Eric impressed, cracks began to show, small ones at first, like Hope gently pushing back on Steffi's budget restrictions, or Steffi bristling when the press began referring to Hope as the future face of Forrester, but cracks nonetheless, and into those cracks slipped the same elements that had always threatened them: family interference, romantic history, and unspoken fears. Ridge, for all his efforts to support both women, still leaned more heavily on Steffi in boardroom matters, causing Hope to occasionally wonder if she would ever truly be seen as more than a guest in the Forrester kingdom, while Brooke, proud of her daughter's strength, couldn't help but warn her, time and again, that Steffi is still a Forrester, and she'll always protect her own first, advice that Hope took with a grain of salt but couldn't quite ignore, especially as Thomas began to creep back into the periphery, his eyes softening whenever Hope spoke in meetings, his subtle admiration rekindled not just for her design sensibility, but for her presence, her warmth, her ability to see beauty in a broken world, and though he said nothing inappropriate, Hope felt the ghost of their past lapping at her heels, made worse when Liam, freshly distant and clearly adrift, began reappearing in her life with the all-too-familiar sadness of a man who had once had it all and let it slip through his fingers. Steffi noticed it, of course, noticed everything, and while she never voiced it aloud, the old protectiveness flared inside her, not necessarily for Liam, but for the life she had built with Finn, for the clean line she had drawn to preserve her sanity, and the silent fear that if Hope began revisiting old wounds, Steffi's hard-won peace might collapse in the ripple effect, and so, what began as a noble alliance began to falter in moments both large and small, Hope missing a joint presentation because of a last-minute visit from Liam, Steffi refusing to back Hope's controversial eco-campaign in Europe, not out of logic but because of pressure from Thomas, who claimed it didn't fit the brand, and before long, the warmth between them began to chill, their easy laughter replaced by clipped professionalism, their shared lunches skipped in favor of solo meetings, and though neither of them said the words out loud, the question hung in the air like a ticking clock: was this really a reunion, or just an intermission between wars? Because both women, for all their growth, carried deeply embedded instincts, Hope's tendency to seek peace even when it cost her power, and Steffi's reflex to assert control the moment she felt threatened, and the more pressure mounted from the press, from their families, from the demanding Forrester calendar, the more those instincts began to resurface, and yet, despite the fraying edges of their partnership, there was still something there, something worth fighting for, because unlike before, when their dynamic had been defined by who got the man, or who won the press spotlight, this time their bond had been born out of mutual choice, not necessity, and though both were tired, they were also wiser, stronger, and no longer willing to burn it all down just to prove a point. So in one of the final scenes of the month, Hope showed up at Steffi's office unannounced, holding a rough sketch of a dual vision collection for fall, one that bore both their signatures, and instead of presenting it like a pitch, she simply laid it on the table and said, "This isn't about making peace anymore. It's about showing the world we're not afraid to evolve." Steffi remained silent for a moment, simply staring at the lines and curves on the paper, at the symbolism she couldn't deny, before looking up with a flicker of hope rather than suspicion or exhaustion. "If we're going to do this, for real, we do it with total honesty, no games, no secrets," she said. And when Hope nodded, the deal was sealed, not with a contract, but with something much rarer in the world they lived in, a second chance to choose one another, not as enemies turned allies, but as women who had walked through fire and emerged on the other side, still standing, still fierce, and still willing to try again.